This year's commencement lecture is extra special because this is the first commencement lecture in person in the post-pandemic era, sorry. So we have a fairly packed schedule today. So without any further ado, I now request Professor Ashish Bhardwaj to deliver the welcome remarks. Professor Ashish Bhardwaj, Dean, Jindal School of Banking and Finance.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Chavi. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Verma, Chairperson of the Board of AU Small Finance Bank, for being here with us today to deliver the commencement lecture. I'm also very grateful to Ms. Sonali Puri, who's here on the stage with us. She's the founder and CEO of two of the most promising startups, fintech startups in the country, Wired Up and BidAsk. She's going to be delivering the special address here today. I'm very grateful that they could join us and come all the way to our campus in Sonipat. I really appreciate that our founding Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Rajkumar, my own mentor, took the time out to be with us today, and I think the registrar is also going to join us in a few minutes. The VC has some really important engagements after some time, so he might leave a few minutes before 10:30. And of course, all the faculty members, all the staff members who are here from not just the Jindal School of Banking and Finance, but also from the other schools, because some of those faculty members are going to be teaching you in this semester. So welcome all of you to this commencement event 2022, and a very, very warm welcome to all the students of Jindal School of Banking and Finance. Can we have a big round of applause for all the newly admitted students of Jindal School of Banking and Finance? You're all remarkable. You've been resilient in the past 2.5 years, and you've really made a terrific choice in what you're going to be learning, studying, where you're going to be doing, and where you'll be spending the very, very important next 2 to 3 years of your life. Not 4, 3, stick to 3. Jindal School of Banking and Finance was announced and established at the end of 2017. The year 2017, which makes this a very special year for all of us here in the school and even in the university. And it's a specialized and a boutique school, very future-oriented, technology-centric education towards finance, banking, insurance, fintech, and allied areas is what we are going to be focusing in all our programs. In 2018, we hosted the first batch of students in the BCom Honors program. We had 5 faculty members and 40 students, your seniors. And now, in the 5th year of this school, we have 300 plus students, 30 faculty members. We have 5 programs instead of 1, and we have an alumni group of 40 students. So that has been our journey in the last 5 years, and I'm grateful to each and every individual in the school and the university who has contributed to this, many of whom are sitting here in this room. We have 5 programs, degree programs, as you know: a BCom Honors in Capital Markets, a BA Honors in Finance and Entrepreneurship, a Global BCom Honors, and a MSc in Finance. Each program is unique. Each program has its own unique set of learning outcomes, curriculum. Our expectations and vision differ from one program to the other, but the common denominator across all the programs is that they are going to make you future ready, because the skills you are going to be learning and the knowledge that you are going to be gaining is going to be relevant for years to come. 10 years ago, in fact 5 years ago, before the school was established, this entire portfolio of programs that I just outlined was pretty much crunched into one traditional, contemporary, and dare I say, inward-looking commerce undergraduate program. We felt that this approach to teaching finance and commerce in general needs to change, and someone has to drive that change. That's what we did here in JGU and at the School of Banking and Finance. We changed the approach of teaching commerce. And remember, commerce at an undergraduate level, or finance at an undergraduate level in India, is being taught for little over 105 years. But that doesn't mean we can't bring about positive, meaningful changes to something which is very well established. Someone had to do it despite the very illustrious legacy of the program, of the discipline, and I'm glad that we are able to bring about some really meaningful changes to it. Why did we do all of this? Why did we dissect this enormously high potential discipline into 5 different programs the way we have conceived them? Is because we have a certain vision for it. And I want to be very quick and clear about this. Everything that we know here in this room, everything that you know right now, everything that you are going to be learning in the next few years here with us can broadly be compartmentalized into 3 blocks, right? 3 blocks. There are going to be a lot of known knowns. The second bucket is there are going to be a lot of known unknowns. And the third bucket is a lot of unknown unknowns. What do I mean by that? Known knowns are you have a question, you know what the question is, and you possibly know the answer to it already. You're just waiting to experience it. Those are known knowns. That it's a university, there's going to be a lot of studying, assessments, meeting new people, faculty and students. Those are known knowns, not really the worry area. Then there are known unknowns. You know there's college education, a university level learning is different from what you're all used to, but you don't know what that difference will be until you experience it. You know broadly what a hostel life is in a fully residential campus like ours, but you're not entirely sure how it's going to pan out until you go through it on a daily, weekly basis. Those are known unknowns. It's the final bit, the enigma, that's going to unfold over the course of next 2 to 3 years for you. Those are the unknown unknowns. You don't know what the question should be when you're approaching someone, and you definitely don't know what the answer might be. That's what's going to bring about the most meaningful change. That's going to tell you why we are teaching you law along with finance, accountancy along with economics, management along with technology, and a whole range of leadership skills, team building skills, and basically being a more compassionate and patient human being. All of this is going to come together in a very beautiful manner over the course of next few years. Be patient and you will see a significantly positive change. As you know, your school is called Jindal School of Banking and Finance. Banking is a solid industry, not just in India but around the world, and finance, as you all know, is a functional area in each sector and industry, right? There's a reason why we have set it up like this. And our guest speakers are going to talk a lot more about it, but remember that banking is much more than only finance. And that's something which our commencement speaker, Mr. R.V. Verma, might touch upon. And you should also know that finance is more expansive than only banking. And that's something which our second special speaker is going to talk about in her address. I don't want to take too much time, so thank you very much for being here with us, Ms. Puri and Mr. Verma. Welcome all the students and faculty members. And with that, I'll invite the founding Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajkumar, to address you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. First of all, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. R.V. Verma, the Chairman of the Board and Independent Director of AU Small Finance Bank, and Ms. Sonal Puri, Founder and CEO of Wire Up and Bid Ask. It's such a pleasure to see both of you, and thank you for taking the time out to come to our campus. At our university, we have developed a very healthy culture of beginning the academic session with what we call as the commencement lecture. Of course, I'm the founding Vice Chancellor, so on 30th September 2009, when we began the first academic session of the first school of the university, it was Jindal Global Law School, and we had a commencement lecture. Now, little did we know that in 13 years, we'll end up having 12 schools, and then there will be 12 commencement lectures. And as Vice Chancellor, I need to be present in all of them. So I've been attending commencement lectures. This morning, I had one for the Jindal School of Public Health and Human Development. And in the last several weeks, we've had 8 other commencement lectures. And on Friday, we're going to have 3 more. So it's an absolute delight to be here and to welcome all the students of the Jindal School of Banking and Finance. I would like to extend a hearty welcome to the students who have joined the BCom program, the BCom Honors program, the BCom Honors with a focus on capital markets, as well as the Global BCom, the partnership with the Deakin University, and the BA Honors in Finance and Entrepreneurship, and of course the Masters program, who several of you have joined. I don't know how many of you know this, but I did BCom. So BCom students are very special for me because I did that course several years ago. And I must say that the curriculum that you have here is far, far different from what I had gone through in the year 1991 in a college called Loyola College in Chennai. We had a BCom and we continue to have a BCom program, which is one of the more popular programs at Loyola. But this program that we have launched, and along with the BA Finance and Entrepreneurship and other variants, including the Master's program, as Ashish said, is truly interdisciplinary. We have taken the study of banking and finance and other related areas into another level, recognizing the importance of innovation and entrepreneurship and changing dimensions of globalization, all of which is impacting the world that we live. So I would like to extend the heartiest congratulations to each one of you for having joined the university and also joined the program itself. What I thought I will do in a few minutes, and as Ashish said that I will not be able to stay through the entire lecture, but I will, two distinguished speakers are here and I want to apologize to them ahead that I will miss their speeches. But I want to briefly introduce the university for the students in particular. I also want to extend a warm welcome to all our faculty members of the Jindal School of Banking and Finance, which has grown in size and reputation. Several of you have returned from your previous semester, but also new faculty members have also joined the Jindal School of Banking and Finance, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of them as well. This university was founded as a philanthropic initiative of our founding benefactor, Mr. Jindal. I had the privilege to study in two good Indian institutions, Loyola College Madras and University of Delhi, after which I was a Rhodes Scholar at the University of Oxford and then at Harvard Law School. And during my years at both Oxford and Harvard, I dreamt about the idea of building a university in India. I spent the next several years working as a lawyer, initially in New York, and then teaching law in Japan, and for teaching law in Hong Kong for many years. I wrote a paper entitled Establishing India's First Global University. With that paper, I got to meet with this man by name Naveen Jindal in the year 2006 and spent a year persuading Mr. Jindal to do three things. One, to make a substantial financial commitment. Second, to do it in a not-for-profit manner. And third, to let me have the academic freedom and autonomy and independence to build a world-class university in India. By late 2007, Mr. Jindal agreed to all of that and invited me to move to India, and I moved from Hong Kong to India in early 2008. Little did I know that the journey of moving to India and to envisaging an institution of this magnitude would be posed with so many challenges. Numerous challenges emerged in the process of acquiring land and the entire process of building a curriculum and course structure and program development, faculty recruitment plan, student admissions process, hiring of architects, construction engineers, contractors, and persuading the government of Haryana to pass a legislation establishing OP Jindal Global University as the first private university in the state of Haryana. On 27th January 2009, the government passed the legislation establishing JGU as the first private university, and soon after I was appointed as the first Vice Chancellor of the university. Then we began the construction of campus, recruitment of faculty, and admission of students. And as promised to Mr. Jindal, on 30th September 2009, we began the first academic session of the first school of the university, Jindal Global Law School, with only 100 students and 10 faculty members and 20 administrative staff and 4 classrooms and 1 office for all of us and 100 student housing places. We never looked back since then. Year on year, from 2009, we built a new school. 2010 onwards, the business school, the School of International Affairs, the School of Government and Public Policy, the School of Liberal Arts and Humanities, the School of Journalism and Communication, the School of Art and Architecture, the School of Banking and Finance, which you are all part of, the School of Environment and Sustainability, the School of Psychology and Counseling, the School of Languages and Literature, and the 12th school, the commencement lecture of which was held an hour ago, is the Jindal School of Public Health and Human Development. We moved from, say, 100 students in 2009 to over 10,000 students, which is what we are today. We moved from 10 full-time faculty members to over 1,000 plus full-time faculty members. We moved from 20 administrative staff to over 1,000 administrative staff, and we moved from 100,000 square feet of built-up space when we started in 2009 to over 3.5 million square feet of built-up space, which is what we are. In this journey of 13 years, we'll be celebrating our 13th anniversary just a few weeks from now on 30th September. 5 things shaped our vision and continue to shape our mission. And I want you to be part of that mission. First, we are a global university. For us to be a global university means to be able to build collaborations with universities around the world. We have over 350 partner universities spread across 67 countries in which we do 10 different forms of collaborations. They include faculty exchange, student exchange, joint teaching, joint research, joint conferences, joint publications, dual degree programs, short-term study abroad programs, inward mobility immersion programs, and joint executive education programs. Thousands of students of JGU have been immensely benefited by these collaborations, which will enable them to pursue different types of opportunities around the world, including at Harvard, at Oxford, at Fletcher, at Wharton, and many other institutions spread across United States, Canada, Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea, Taipei, entire parts of Western Europe, as well as China and many other parts of the world. I invite you to be part of that effort. The Office of International Collaborations and Global Initiatives, as well as your own International Affairs Dean, will guide you through that process so that each one of you can also aspire to be part of the program. As a part of our global imagination, we have been able to recruit faculty members from around the world, and I'm happy to report that the 1,000 faculty members that we have come from 46 countries in the world. These are full-time faculty who are residing and working and living in Sonipat. The second aspect of our university is our strong commitment to interdisciplinarity. I invite each one of you who are pursuing studies at the Jindal School of Banking and Finance to take courses at the other school, to be able to cross-register courses in our law school, in our business school, in our environmental school, in our psychology school, because we are part of an interdisciplinary ecosystem whereby, regardless of whichever school or program that you belong to, every day after 4 p.m., over 400 courses are offered as a part of cross-registered electives, which is available for all students of JGU, including the students of the Jindal School of Banking and Finance. The third aspect of our university is our strong commitment to research and knowledge creation and publications. Your faculty members and the faculty members of other schools are actively engaged in the pursuit of knowledge as well as creation of knowledge, and are engaged in research and publications. And I hope you will become part of one of the research centers or actively working with your own faculty members to pursue that research. The fourth aspect of our university is our strong commitment to diversity as well as pluralism and also access to education. I am sure several of you have been benefited by the fact that we offer scholarships and fellowships with a view to provide access, but we deeply believe in the need for having a diverse institution. I am happy to report that the students of JGU come from all states and union territories of India, over 40 countries around the world. The faculty members also come, as I said, from all states and union territories of India and nearly 46 countries in the world. I'm also happy to report that 55% of our full-time faculty members are women. Over 45% of our leaders across the university happen to be women as well. Over 50% of our students also are women. That makes the entire community more diverse than most Indian institutions and also benchmarking it with some of the best in the world. The fifth aspect of our university is our strong commitment to experiential learning, including opportunities to pursue internships and enabling you to ultimately have career development goals and aspirations as well as placements. I hope that you will visit the Office of Career Services and engage with them at the earliest opportunity so that you can look at this opportunity to be studying a course here, not just as the pathway for seeking a job, but also to build a career. With those words, I want to end by saying that just imagine for a moment you are, have a thought experiment. Let's say 6 years ago, and I can say this for the faculty as well, 6 years ago, if somebody had told you that you are going to be a student or a professor at a place called Sonipat in Jagdishpur village in Haryana, would you have believed it? And most of you would not have. And that's exactly what has happened here. We have been able to transform a region, a place, a locality, a town, something that most people could not have imagined. So such is the possibility of change that can happen, and you can be part of the change. So make the best use of the opportunity that is available. Come out of your comfort zone, experience the campus life, but also recognize that with all freedom comes responsibility. For the first time, several of you I know will be living on your own, away from the parental protection and the kind of rules and regulations and regimes that might have been imposed at home, but you are now living a rather autonomous life with a greater degree of freedom. But when you have that freedom, I can only hope that you will exercise that freedom with the highest sense of responsibility. I hope that you will also adhere to the rules and regulations of the university, many of which have already been briefed to you, and if you have not been briefed, I will exhort the dean and other faculty members to familiarize yourself with those rules and regulations. Otherwise, the campus is a beautiful space to discover and to learn and to be inspired. It's also a place where you can do things outside the academic part of it. There is a very active student culture, including sports and extracurricular activities, music and theatre and drama, and there are over 30 student-run societies. I hope you will become part of it. In many ways, these are formative years, particularly for the undergraduate students, to shape your future. I sincerely hope you will make the best use of that opportunity and live your dreams and fulfill your aspirations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rajkumar, for inspiring us and encouraging all of us and the newly admitted students. I now would like to request Mr. R.V. Verma, Chairman and Director for AU Small Finance Bank, to deliver his commencement lecture. Mr. R.V. Verma has a rich experience of 40 years in the field of finance, banking, regulatory compliance, mortgage finance, and the real estate sector. He has held several leadership positions during his illustrious career in financial services, including top management and board positions such as Chairman and Managing Director of National Housing Bank, whole-time Director and Chairman of Central Registry of Securitization, Asset Reconstruction and Security Interest of India, Non-Executive Director and Chairman of the Indian Mortgage Guarantee Corporation, and whole-time member and officiating Chairman of Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. He has also been a consultant to World Bank Group on housing, real estate, mortgage sector, and appointed as a member of the Advisory Committee of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Mr. R.V. Verma.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajkumar, Mr. Dr. Ashish Bhardwaj, Sonali, Ms. Sonali, and very young, fresh students who are just joining the university, today being their first day, as I'm told. After a very inspiring talk and lecture by your Vice Chancellor, I think it has given us a lot of energy too, and I feel freshly energized and can imagine myself in your position and listening to the Honorable Vice Chancellor speaking like this. Immediately that gives you a sense of pride and confidence. So with that sense of pride and confidence, I think you'll have a great journey in this campus, in this university. I'm here to talk to you about banking particularly, and how it relates with finance and rest of the economy, the broader economy. I'm very happy to know that the OP Jindal University has a very special and distinguished department and discipline called banking and finance. Not many universities have that. I think this is the first time I'm seeing something like this, and I'm amazed at their achievements in a very short time. And I think it's a model which should be replicated, which should be studied and adopted by other universities too. In my present capacity at the AU Small Finance Bank, in fact, I owe my first opportunity of employment to the central bank of the country, the Reserve Bank of India, and that laid the foundation in me for taste for banking industry, and thereafter I switched jobs, but within the banking industry, and that has post my, I would say, retirement from the professional, formal profession of National Housing Bank, which is a subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of India and specialized regulator for the mortgage and real estate industry. I moved to the other regulator, which is the Pension Funds Regulatory and Development Authority. So I have mostly been on the regulatory side of finance, starting from the Reserve Bank of India, which was overall central bank regulator, to the National Housing Bank, which was a regulator for the mortgage industry and housing finance, to the Pension Funds Regulatory Development Authority, which was the regulator for the pension funds area. They're all part of the financial system. So starting with today, as we know, our country has been declared as the 5th largest economy and surpassing UK. So it's a matter of pride and a sense of achievement for the entire country, which has come about in very challenging conditions. We just saw 2 years of pandemic, which has gone behind us, hopefully. But it has certainly impacted the economy and the financial sector in a big way, some positive, some negative. So we have learned the lessons, and I think the country is going to build on those learnings, on those lessons. So we are looking forward to a very, very resilient, very stable, and a very sustainable journey of the banking industry. And that's going to happen on the back of the growing economy. So banking and the economy are very closely interrelated. So your sense of economics, your knowledge of finance, and your specialization in banking, all these 3 disciplines are very, very closely interrelated. They're intertwined with each other. On the back of this growth of our GDP, which was declared by the IMF to judge India as the 5th largest economy today, we have the contribution. Essentially, it has been possible because of the growing banking industry, the growing resilience of the banking industry, the growing span of the banking industry. The growth in the economy is a result of credit expansion, availability of funds, flow of finance into the economy, and that has to happen through an institutional mechanism, which is essentially called the banks. Now, banks are financial intermediaries. They are deposit taking on the one hand and lending out on the other hand. And in between the two, there is a big journey. There is a big journey which not many people know. The bankers are often blamed to say that they're doing a margin game, they're raising funds at lower cost and lending at a higher cost, and they're making a lot of profit in between. It's much more than what it appears to be to a layman, to a common person. And managing those deposits through contribution to the economic growth is a huge challenge. And that's an aspect which I would like to emphasize before all of you, the youngsters, see the energy in all of you. And this is something which will be important for building your perspective around banking and finance. So finance being the raw material for the development of the economy, for growth, and but it has to be tapped. the resources have to be channelized into sectors which are promising, into sectors where the demand for funds is coming from, and the sectors which are sustainable, which are solid, which are growing. So essentially, we are looking at a scenario where banks as institutions are tapping the deposits from the households, from the savers in the economy, and lending the money to the borrowers, to investors, for growth of the economy, or growth of activities. So finance becomes the raw material, but it cannot be left in the hands of the banks just like that, just for their business or for their profitability. It is the national resource. Finance is the national resource, the savings are the national resource. So they have to be channelized in a certain direction, and which will result in overall growth of the economy, growth of all the sectors, balanced growth, balanced regional growth, balanced sectoral growth, and balanced growth amongst different segments of the population. So and all this has to be done in a commercially sustainable way, and that's important. And for sustainability to come in, there has to be regulations. So a regulatory framework is absolutely important, is absolutely critical for any of these institutions to operate in this sector, in the financial world. Whether it's the capital market, it's the mortgage market, it's the pension industry, you have the broader banking sector. Each of these has a regulator. Today, banks have a regulator in the Reserve Bank of India. And mind you, the banks are not only mobilizers of deposits and channelizers into the sectors, into different sectors, depending on the credit absorption capacity of each sector, but they are also accountable to the, other than the shareholders or the companies, they are accountable to the regulators, to the nation at large. And that's where the regulations come in. The accountability of the regulators is to ensure that these institutions operate in a sustainable manner. They operate with prudence, with due diligence, and the money is safe in their hands. So safety of funds is the first priority. The money is safe in the institutions, and not everyone can get the license to open a bank. It's after a lot of due diligence that the central bank approves a particular entity to open or operate as a commercial bank. And that in itself is a challenge, and you have to prove your worth to be able to handle this kind of delicate and sensitive business. Because you are a trustee of the people who put funds with you, who place funds with you. So deposit mobilization and injecting it into the economy and that requires, you are mobilizing deposits, and some people are the commerce graduates here, commerce students. You have the liability side of the balance sheet for the banks. Managing those liabilities is important, and that's critical. Alongside that, you have the asset side, which is where you deploy your funds, where you create your assets, where you do the due diligence of your borrowers, whether they are individuals or companies or corporates or any other legal entity. So you have a challenge on both the sides. You have regulations governing both your liabilities as well as the assets. So there's a set of prudential guidelines, prudential norms, which are laid down by the regulators to guide and to regulate the banking industry. We have been fortunate in our country that there's been the different classes of banking. There are different categories of banks, starting with, we had an era of social banking, which came about post-nationalization of the banks, which happened in 2 doses. 1969 was the major dose of nationalization of commercial banks. Prior to that, we had private sector banks essentially, and opened by the industrialists, and they were doing their own job, but under the regulatory framework of the central bank. 1969 was the first dose of nationalization, which brought in the concept of social banking in a big way. So, but social banking not at the cost of commercial sustainability or commercial profitability. So social banking, commercial banking, we had developmental banking. You had a number of all India financial institutions. They are all part of the financial sector. So it's not a uniform, just one vertical of commercial banks? No. You have different categories of banks. You have regional rural banks, you have cooperative banks, you have all India financial institutions, which are essentially the development banks. And then you have commercial banks. Within commercial banks, now we have small finance banks, which is yet again a different category. So you have a very large population to serve, and very diverse population to serve, very diverse geographies to reach, and very diverse, I would say, population in terms of unserved and underserved segments to be served through the banking industry. And that's where the challenge lies. I would be very proud to say that this journey of the banking industry has been so incredible, it has been so amazing that it has cracked all the challenges. It has met with all kinds of challenges, and today we have the entire population, every nook and corner of the country, every region being served by the banking industry, every segment of the population being served by the banking industry, and we must recognize the guidance through policies, through programs, through different kinds of products which have been designed by the banking industry, through the processes which have been established, and through the people who are working in the banking industry. So I always have this focus on the policies which comes from the government and the regulators, the product design which comes from the banks themselves, and that's the part of the banking culture. You have to design the product to suit different segments of the population, different regions of the geography, different income groups, different stakeholders. And then in designing that product, you have to be imaginative, you have to be creative, you have to be customer-centric, which is very, very important. Customer centricity today has emerged as a key factor in driving growth in the economy, not only in the banking business, but in the overall economy. So all these factors, I don't know in a short period of time how much I can cover, but it's a vast area, and I would think that commercial banks today who have opened out into the international arena, international space, are facing a lot more competition, and which is bringing out the best in them. And fortunately, through the good regulations and very protective regulatory environment provided by the central bank and the government of India, we came out unscathed in the global financial crisis, which happened in 2007, 2008, starting from US and expanding very quickly to the entire globe. You all must have heard about the subprime crisis. It started with the mortgage industry, and it became a financial disaster, and later it became a sovereign disaster. Many of the governments, banks, in any case, many of the banks failed, or they went into consolidation and merger, and then we had the sovereigns also failing because of the entire global financial crisis. India was one country which came out unscathed because of good regulations, good compliances, and that's something which has to be monitored. The compliance by the banking industry is absolutely important, critical. So the challenge lies in the banking industry. Today, when we have opened out after the 90s, early 90s, under the reform process, we adopted the spirit of globalization and internationalization. It brought about much bigger challenge to the banking industry, but they have lived up to their challenge. They have lived up to the expectation of the nation, and I would think today we have a banking industry which is very robust, resilient, stable, and sustainable. So there's a large number of stakeholders who have been responsible for it, and but largely the government handing over, or the central bank handing over the autonomy and independence to the commercial banks to make your own decisions and drive your business based on your best understanding of the economy, best understanding of the financial sector, best understanding of the risks. That's an important area, the risk and governance. There are so many different pieces to banking which a common person doesn't see. All that they say is that we need more banking today, but less bankers. That's one of the jibes for the bankers, but that's in a digital context. we need more banking services, more greater reach of the banks digitally rather than physically. So that's a transition which is happening now. I think we are in a good company of thinkers, policymakers, very progressive minds, and great youth in this country. Combining all these, I think we have a great journey ahead, and maybe it's been a, Ashish, I'll, I think, end with that. And it's been a pleasure talking to all of you. There is so much to talk about, but maybe at a later point of time. But wish you all the best, and let me congratulate the university for having a very distinguished department of banking and finance, and I wish them all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Verma. We totally agree with you that how important it is to have financial inclusion, and we clearly need more banking and less of bankers. Keeping that in mind and agreeing to the fact that how important regulation is in the finance sector, and the regulators' role in the finance sector in ensuring safe inclusion is very important. Keeping that in mind, we now look forward to hearing Ms. Ms. Sonali Puri, who is the founder and CEO of 2 young fintech startups, Wired Up and BidAsk, both digital startups, as Mr. R.V. Verma stressed upon. Ms. Sonali Puri comes with a rich experience of about 2 decades in the finance sector. She's worked in global financial markets and has a long career in commercial banking. She has held key positions in organizations such as ICICI Bank, Deutsche Bank, and Citibank. Over to Ms. Sonali Puri.
I'm truly overwhelmed. As I stand in front of you all today, honestly, I can see glimpses of my own self sitting somewhere there in the middle, fiddling with a pen. We didn't have cell phones back then to fiddle with. And believe me, never in my wildest of dreams, I could really think that someday I'd be standing on the other side of the auditorium and talking to such a bright set and the esteemed faculty. So thank you. It's truly overwhelming to be here. You know, in the morning, while I was on my way to your college, and it was a long distance, didn't anticipate that kind of travel time, but it was interesting because I discovered a very different emotion on my way while I was here. One of my team members called me in the morning to just check on me, how excited I was to come and talk to a young set, how excited I was to interact with the faculty. Basically, how excited I was to come back to college. Excitement, I would say, is an emotion that I've been feeling ever since the opportunity came my way. But I felt a very different emotion today, which I discovered that I'm suddenly feeling the weight of 20 years that I have spent in my professional life. And why I say weight is because I've been consciously tuning my mind to continue to think that I'm still 22. And why so? The reasons are twofold. One, of course, who doesn't get the kick of feeling like a millennial? And the other is, I want to continue to feel the same energy, the same zeal, the same enthusiasm to tread on this path that I'm on. There's a very interesting dialogue that I heard in a movie way back. I'm not sure how many of you would have heard. It's an old movie. I'm a complete Bollywood buff, so I keep picking up lines and dialogues here and there, and somehow try and see how best I can apply my life situations into those. This sometimes incidentally become your life best defenses and enable you to push against the toughest challenges. So this dialogue that says, कॉलेज के गेट के इस पार जिंदगी कुछ है और कॉलेज के गेट के उस पार कुछ और. Trust me, this dialogue, this statement has a universal applicability. I have been experiencing this ever since the time I stepped out at every step of the way. It's been 20 years for me on being the other side of the gate, and to build a life which is as exciting and as thrilling as it was on that other side has taken me tremendous effort, resolve, resilience, and above all, commitment. Now, I don't want to really sound preachy here in a typical, that life ke nuske way. But as I'm told, you're a young lot who's starting a fresh year. I feel it's a good platform, good opportunity for me to share my own story in exactly as it happened way and bring out how and what led me to create my two ventures, Wired Up and Bid Ask. Let me start with ground zero. I was born and brought up in Delhi, did my schooling from Presentation Convent School, Delhi, went on to do my economics honors from Hindu College, and then further went on to do my MBA in finance from IMI Delhi. Most beautiful years of my life. In fact, I feel if ever time permits me to write a book, the most obvious choice for me to select my topic of my writing would be the experiences of my student life. Now that is something which I feel that the youth of today is missing in a big way. Now while I said I won't sound preachy, but I would really want you all to absorb this one little point here, that allow yourself, let yourself live your student life in the most fulfilling way. Pick up things that are relevant for you in this particular age. You don't have to do a PV of the next 50 years and carry that baggage today. Invest in relationships, invest in building social interactions, invest in making the right network. I have praised, all these aspects have played a very, very critical role in shaping the real me. In fact, the whole foundation of my professional choice happened over a very casual conversation with one of my seniors during the placement season. Let me narrate you this story. I was in my first year of MBA, and the placement season had just started for the second years. As all of you, we were in between lectures, we were sipping tea, sitting outside college over a very small dhaba in those days, and just waiting for our time to begin. And suddenly walked in one of our good senior friends, and we all pounced on him to just understand how the whole thing is going, whether he finally made it, not made it, what's the scene like amongst the second years with the start of the placement season. And he told us that he made it on the very first day, being an A-star student. He made it to one of the largest banks in the country, but we couldn't see any excitement on his face. And the reason for that is, I don't know what really transpired in that discussion, but the reason he was not excited because he somewhere felt he's not going to make it to the Treasury Department. None of us knew back then what that really meant, but it just somewhere left that lingering curiosity in the mind that it means something, that it can take away the excitement from a person who got placed on the very first day in the only bank which came to campus and one of the largest in the country. So anyway, that conversation ended, time passed, the new year began, many new changes happened. I got engaged in the middle of the year. My parents felt the year is coming to a close, so let's pack her off. So they decided to pack me off to a completely different city. I was to get married and move to Bombay, placements were coming, and my options had got even more limited. Because being a Delhi institute, there weren't too many companies which were coming offering placements in other cities, so that limited the choice in a big way. Anyhow, the placement season began for me. I was the second one, luckily, to get placed in the same bank where my senior got placed. I was not important to note here, I was not the A-star student. I was not in the top of the list. I was not that blue-eyed girl of college. But I was extremely confident. When I moved into that room for my interview, I knew this is the only option that I have it here. And there was no other institution, no other company which was coming to college to offer jobs in Bombay. And I knew both my lives had to start together. And I was lucky to make it through, and that's that. The next few weeks passed in bliss, because once you get placed, it gives you a feeling of comfort. College ended, and my two lives began together. 1 week into my marriage, my work life started, and both the journeys brought its new experiences. I was a complete bundle of energy when my work life started. It was like everything I wanted to gather and grasp and learn anything that was coming my way. As if, I don't know how many of you have heard that, but Gyan was everywhere and I wanted to butter it from just any source that it was coming my way. The trainings began, the interviews began where, the bank started to take our choices, where we wanted to be, what we wanted to do, and I could only think of treasury because that lingering curiosity stayed in my mind that this is some animal which has some glamour around it. And hence, 2 years passed, I finally made my way to the treasury department. Something that I entered with a very high glamour quotient, I didn't know will become my life one day. And it's been 20 years, I'm breathing currencies exactly in the same way as I breathe oxygen. So that is what curiosity, that is what hunger, something which started over a very casual conversation finally gave me my career choice, and I'm enjoying it till today. 20 years have now passed that I have spent my time in banking, done multiple roles, multiple verticals, many different challenges, endured them with a very open-minded observations. And one of my biggest learnings have been that banking is very different for different segments of the corporate world. And it is one single factor which can actually alter the entire course, the entire growth path for any company. I was privileged to have spent time in one of the biggest banks of the world. I spent a decade plus in Citibank. Again, handling multiple roles, different challenges, different client segments, gave me an exposure to the field which I couldn't have asked for more. Above all, it instilled a value of a different level when it came to ethics, code of working, and very high sense of pride. With all these learnings, I moved on 4 years back to create my own journey, and that's how I developed my two ventures, Wired Up and Bid Ask. Both these ventures are in the area of banking and finance. Both these products cater to all those gaps that I realized during my working years in banks, which kind of stalled the growth of companies in a big way. My entire experience has been working with companies of all sizes, be it a startup or the largest of large conglomerates, which are all listed large entities, and some of the companies which are global in nature. And many things, as you covered this large set, many things came out of, areas where a deep delving perhaps can create many, many values for a very large customer set, for a very large corporate set. And completely based on my experience is what these two products are about. Wired Up is a product which is meant largely for the corporate world. It caters to the requirements of banking, finance, digitization, aspects without which it's very difficult for companies to grow. And Bid Ask is the first gaming application in the Forex space. After having spent 2 decades in these particular fields, Forex is one area where the dearth of knowledge is very, very deep, and it takes years to build that knowledge. So what better way to begin than playing it in a game form and acquiring knowledge as you spend more years gathering knowledge around economics, around data, around analysis, and putting it all together to take your calls in a simulated environment so that you're future ready. You all are taking a big leap in your life as you start your journey in this esteemed organization. And I'm sure you will have many wonderful opportunities to interact and hear some very inspiring stories, inspiring experiences. But trust me, there's nothing more exciting than creating your own inspirations, than creating your own stories, then finding your own idea, what floats your boat, and leading with that. I think that brings me to the end of my talk. And one thing which I'd like you all to carry as a moral of my story is that it is okay to be ordinary. It is okay to sometimes not really have a plan. It is okay to let life take its own terms. But what is not okay is to not have your fascinations, not having your curiosity, not having that hunger, and above all, not having a feeling of self-worth. Trust me, you have these and you can tread just any challenge. Thank you, and I wish you all a very, very bright future ahead.
Just, sharing with us that how, even if we are ordinary, that how we can achieve much in life, that's truly inspiring. Thank you. Now, I would request our registrar, Professor Daibru Sridhar Patnaik, to deliver his remarks.
First of all, let me begin with my apologies. I was late participating in this program due to my other official engagements, but it's my bad luck that I missed part of the wonderful lecture given by Mr. R.V. Verma, Chairman of the Board and Independent Director, AU Small Finance Bank. But it's been really fascinating listening to Ms. Sonali Puri, Founder and CEO, Wired Up and Bid Ask. I must say that Sonali is a good motivational speaker, and the representatives from our Office of Career Services here should invite Sonali for a talk addressing all the students, not just at the School of Banking and Finance, but other schools. And likewise, Mr. Verma, because where you are located is unlike many other colleges and departments offering commerce programs. You are here in a school which is so very interdisciplinary in its focus, and that is in fact the bedrock of this university as well. So I take great pleasure in welcoming all the newly admitted students to the BCom Honors program, to the BA Honors in Finance and Entrepreneurship, the BCom Honors Collaborative Program in Capital Markets in collaboration with the National Stock Exchange, the Global BCom Honors with Deakin University, Australia, and the Master of Science MSc program in Finance. And we are so grateful to all the faculty members led by the inspiring Dean, Professor Ashish Bharadwaj, for having set up these programs, of which you are a part of now. So the next 3 years or the next 2 years, they are going to be so very crucial to each one of you. So while it's indeed a great privilege to be a part of these programs, and of course the School of Banking and Finance, I would appeal to each one of you to discharge your responsibilities with a great sense of discretion and conscientiousness, because it's indeed a privilege being a university student, but nonetheless, given the situation we are in at this university where we celebrate diversity, we have students coming in from different parts of the countries and around the world. So we want you to respect and promote the diversity, and at every point of time follow the rules and regulations of the university with a great sense of responsibility towards your own work, towards your peers, and capitalize upon the multiple opportunities that are available towards your learning, both within the classroom and outside the classroom, because a great deal of learning happens even outside the classroom through the lectures of this nature that you had just experienced. So I assume that you are going to be responsible towards all your activities over here, and that's what is going to make your time here all the more engaging and all the more enriching. And as and when you notice that there are some issues that you might be facing, both academic as well as pastoral, you should bring that to the notice of the dean of the school and the associate or the assistant deans. And if there are any pastoral issues, you should immediately flag those concerns with the Office of Student Affairs, because we are so very mindful and particular not only about your academic learning, but even about the pastoral support that you get here. But it's only so much so as long as you become responsible for your own work and for your own life over here. So I stop on this particular note, but not before congratulating each one of you for getting admission to these prestigious programs. And I'm grateful to the speakers for having taken out time to be here with us this afternoon. And I'm also grateful to the faculty members and the dean, and of course the administrative support team for the entire work that you have put in to make this program a success. Last but not the least, all the dear students present here, be assured of the support that you're going to receive from the different university offices over here. Thank you so much and all the very best.
Thank you, Professor Patnaik, for encouraging all of us. I would also like to thank the administrative staff for organizing and arranging this event today. Mr. Dhruba, Ms. Jyoti Datta, Mr. Santraj, and everyone from the events team. Thank you so much.